Excellent.
All right, here we go. Welcome to our topic today, which is going to be around the convergence between digital out of home and in store. We're live at IAB Europe's Retail Media Impact Summit in Amsterdam, and this is the Triple C version. I'm Collin Colburn, leader of the Commerce and Retail Media Center of Excellence at the IAB. I have Chris Riegel, CEO of STRATACACHE, and I have Chris McClelland, business development lead in EMEA for STRATACACHE. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk a little bit about a topic, kind of an extension of your talk earlier today, which was around unlocking the potential of the store. I think this is one of the hottest topics in retail media, if not the hottest topic in retail media today. And I'm actually going to start with the beginning of the end of your session, which was, the convergence of media and the store is really coming together now. And I think specifically when it comes to digital out of home, there's a little bit of defining that needs to happen of what is digital out of home in the context of retail media. You said it's not digital out of home. Chris, you want to start by talking a little bit more about what you mean by, it's not digital out of home, it's conversion.
So in the digital out of home market, where you're going for a more top of funnel audience, that digital out of home does not have the direct attribution that retailers do to be able to specifically say media point 1, impression 2, conversion 3. So digital out of home is great at building top of funnel, but retailers have greater traction because of the great amount of data that they have in store. And where digital out of home, I think, can be tricky for retailers specifically is the opportunity to water down the value and say, well, you're just buying mass and that should be at a lower CPM. It should be like other forms of media. Absolutely not. If you're a retailer and you're thinking of it as digital out of home, you're devaluing the asset that you have, which is data. And then secondarily, the ability to transact. So no disrespect to a Clear Channel or Deco or Global, all fabulous companies, but they don't sell products. An Albert Heijn or a Walmart or a Target, they do. You have that direct conversion. So it's cheapening in store to call it digital out of home. And I'll die on that hill if necessary. But to say, hey, retailers, you as retailers are excellent at understanding how to extract capital and extract more money. So value your network correctly.
Yeah. And Chris McClelland, I'd love to hear from you, with the retailers that you're working with, especially in Europe. How are they sort of making that distinction between what are they calling it digital out of home, or like how are they thinking about it and talking about it?
I think there's a few ways to answer it. There's the obvious one, the location, right? Digital out of home is a different part of someone's journey, and you're in store as you're in a physical real estate. So that's the bread and butter of it. But for me, it's more the emotional state of the consumer at that point in time and what that can inform of strategy. So I think it was Drew was mentioning it this morning. It was a really interesting session. Customer centricity, putting the customer first. If you are able to understand where they are in their journey at that moment in time and be relevant and use that to inform strategy, then that's great. So digital out of home, as Chris mentioned, big mass awareness play. It's not a defined audience. In store, you've got a defined consumer with a deliberate intent. So be relevant in that space. I think for me, it's more of the emotional difference of how you use that to inform strategy.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That was Drew Cashmore earlier today talking about sort of how retail media is in a critical phase of its maturation and evolution. And I agree with both of what you're saying because, digital out of home definitely is more mass. It's I'll probably get hit on the head from one of my colleagues at the IAB, but it's a little bit more non-contextually relevant typically, where this is contextually rich, to your point, a defined audience. And I think you made this point too in your session about it can be helpful. It can be additive to the customer experience in the store.
Yeah,
you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, it's not an either or. And if you take London, which is or New York, great media cities, right? If you look at tube advertising or subway advertising, right? For out of home to say, hey, I have a great big poster of McVitie's chocolate biscuits in that tube station, cool. But there's 1,000 other things that enter my mind between the time I'm at the tube station and I'm at the time at the Tesco. So the ability to say, well, wait, I have a digital display on shelf edge at the Tesco saying, ooh, remember these. That ability to say it's much more convertible, trackable, and Coca-Cola calls it that arm's length of desire kind of use case. So there's opportunity and purpose for both, but I've seen too many retailers that don't really understand who they're competing with. And when I say that, hey, at Digital Out of Home, you have a lower CPM, you have less data, and the ability to say, well, wait, as a retailer, I have customer, I have transaction, and I can price it a premium and convert it a premium because it's such a rich data set. And there's that commerce element directly. Digital Out of Home drives awareness, but it does not drive here's a directly attributable conversion that you can track. And that retail to CPG or FMCG relationship is key. Like those are decades long relationships and they're strategic partners together. So that strategic investment makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I'd love to get a little bit more into, we talked about data just now and the role that data plays when it comes to being able to do in-store media really, really well. I actually want to ask a question, around one topic that I find super interesting in this is, I think you did a great job earlier kind of showcasing the type of data, the level of granularity that we're now able to get in the store, not just impression based, but being able to really get rich contextual information about how the shopper is actually going through their journey and where media is going to be, again, additive to that experience. There's definitely an element here of category managers and merchandisers sort of needing to level up their data competencies. How do you see that playing out in terms of the clients and the partners that you guys are working with, and are they trying to up level their category merchandisers and their knowledge of how data works and how that's going to play a role with the supplier relationship?
Big question. I mean, the obvious answer is yes. They kind of have to, and we're starting to see it. I think you don't know what you don't have until you see it. Is I guess an angle. My background is digital, right? Is e-commerce media, and I came over to Workbase about 3-4 months ago now because I saw the untapped potential that was potentially not seen yet. And you could say that everything online is measurable, and therefore it's easy to understand an ROI or what you should do with data. And in store, it's not, but it is. Now there's the technology to harness it, but data on its own is just noise. It's the insights that you can create from it. So I was really excited to join to be able to see, well, the second that someone walks into a store to the second they leave, you've got thousands of data points that you can now harness and turn into strategy. For me, the importance of the data within the store is it should inform media. It shouldn't just measure it. So how people behave historically, the patterns of behavior, where they walk through the store, where your hotspots are, your cold spots are, where your intent is, where your past traffic is, all of that kind of stuff. If you can understand that, and you can leverage that, you can turn that into how you should strategize your media within the store. And it then becomes less of a guessing game. The whole A/B testing of media should not be after the fact. It should be, let's have a look at a lot of data before to make an informed decision, run some media, understand as that media is happening, what's going on in your store, iterate, change, improve, and ultimately, I guess, generate sales lift with more accuracy quicker.
Right. Being an insights-driven business to drive business outcomes. Can you talk a little bit about maybe an example that you guys have of how data insights has improved performance both for retailer and brand?
So I would refer to a conversation I had with the legendary Andy Murray from Saatchi X. And Andy had a really, really interesting point, and Saatchi does work Publicis do work for P&G, to say when the shopper is in the aisle for detergent and the retailer knows, hey, I buy a 64 pack of Tide Pods. Every 2 months, I'm depleting that supply, and then I'm back in the Kroger or Target to rebuy that. So I'm already a Tide Pod customer. Does it make sense for the brand to spend money on Tide Pods to advertise to me? Not really. I mean, there's a defense strategy there a little bit, but principally I'm already hooked on that, and humans are hugely predictable. When you get a brand that you like, you don't want to change it. You just keep doing that same thing. But if I'm P&G and then I want that +1 of, hey, have you tried Downy Beads? For 59 days out of that 60-day cycle, I could care less about Downy Beads. But the moment that I'm in that detergent aisle and I'm buying Tide Pods, P&G is highly motivated to say, hey, wait a minute, you might think about this as an accessory. So the predictability, the mathematical predictability of humans based on decisions, based on buying patterns. I would ask to say with both of you, do you buy the same razors, same shampoo, same toothpaste? You're very predictable in that pattern. So if I'm a brand that's an existing brand, how do I use that brand adjacency to say, hey, you're already in the P&G family and I want to help convert or add another product to the basket? Or if I'm trying to do a conquest and bring you over, I know when you're there, what you're buying on, and then how do I maybe switch you or introduce you to a new product?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. So finally, I want to get on to, both of you, a piece of advice you would give brands when it comes to leveraging data for whatever we're going to call in-store media. Let's just call it that, right? That's what it is, for how they can better leverage data insights for in-store media success.
Yeah. I'm actually going to quote one of my colleagues. I think I won't mention his name because it'll inflate his ego. But he put something on LinkedIn the other day that I thought was quite pertinent. He said, advertisers don't buy screens, they buy proof. Right? So it's gone are the days where you just run media because it's contextually relevant. You have to understand how relevant and what it's actually doing for your business. I'd go one further. Advertisers, they buy strategy. So a lot of advertisers now, trade budgets are even now getting managed by agencies who are very familiar with very powerful DSPs that you can create very unique strategies for a brand level. We need to get to that same spot where you're using data to inform the strategy down to the brand nuance of how they do that. So the data shouldn't just be, as was mentioned before, shouldn't just be an after-the-fact proof point that something worked. It should be all the way throughout that journey. So don't just collect data, listen to it, learn from it.
Riegel, what about you for a piece of advice?
Yeah, don't think of in-store as television. Don't think of it as a looping 30 that's built for broadcast. It is a completely dynamic palette. It should change literally on the fly based on store condition, shopper condition, all these known points. In-store is much, much closer to mobile than it is to any form of broadcast. And if you understand that as a tool, then you can align your creatives to have great effect with in-store.
Yeah, I think those are some great points. Some good takeaways here. I think we have time for one more question, which would be, we're at the Retail Media Impact Summit, the inaugural event here in Europe, in Amsterdam. How would you sum up the event thus far? 3 words or less.
Me? Terrible at these things, not very creative person.
You don't have to keep it at 3.
Well, I was thinking about this. I think the thing for me is honesty. So I really enjoyed Daniel Knapp and Drew Cashmore's, I said that name right? Yeah, their sessions this morning, because a lot of these events talk about the hype of the potential and these big numbers, but the reality is we're not there. So today was honest. Where are we at? What are the challenges we've got ahead? How do we solve them together so that the money doesn't always go where the money's always gone? Yeah. So honesty for me is a big one. Convergence of channels coming together.
I agree.
Progress.
The honesty, I think, in the event has been great because we are in this critical phase of. I often talk about it as like we're in the S curve in terms of this industry. We've had our moment of growth, and now we're kind of like plateauing a little bit, and we need to figure out, all right, how do we overcome some of the key challenges, like this topic that we're talking about here, to be able to get to that accelerated next level of growth. What about you?
I can't do it in 3 words, but I'll get it in 4, which is awake the sleeping giant. So in-store is 93% of all revenue by transaction volume and value. In-store is that last big frontier for retailers to be able to say, wait, there's a lot of money here. And in that awake the sleeping giant, that doesn't mean you have to have 300 displays with blinky lights distracting the customer, but a targeted, customer-focused, experience-focused execution. A drives revenue, B drives trip, C drives a better customer experience. All the elements are there. Now go do it.
Yep. Pots and pans, hitting them over the head.
Completely.
Thank you guys. Chris Riegel, Chris McClelland. This has been awesome, and appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.